Hello, I'm Lacey, and this is Lieutenant Dan. He's an armpit noodle. He's into that. And this is Reptiles. Let's talk about the Great Cobra Scare. The year was 1953. Shocker. In Springfield, Missouri, and trouble is afoot. Between the months of August and October, the city found itself with an unwelcome group of new residents. 11 Indian cobras. Isn't that right, Daniel? 11 Indian cobras. Yes. You are not an Indian cobra. You are a ball python. Indian cobras, as the name implies, are certainly not native to the middle of North America. Not at all. They're typically found throughout India and the South Pacific. These cobras have the scientific name of naja naja. They're true cobras. They're also called spectacle cobras for the markings on the back of their hood that resemble glasses or spectacles. These snakes are also in the top 4 most responsible for bites in their native range. Indian cobras come from the family Elapidae, and they have both neurotoxic and cardiotoxic venom, which means when they take you out, they're, gonna kill you with cardiac arrest and respiratory failure. It's no joke. A bite from one of these guys, like I said, not a good time. Just ask Chandler from Chandler's Wildlife. In 2023, he got bit by an Indian cobra. Not a good time. He's got the nub now. Him and the Nub Club, they have nubs. He got bit when he was releasing these snakes that they had caught and rescued back into the wild. So keep your eyes peeled, friends. Bro, what are you doing? But anyway, back to Springfield. The cobras were found in an area of town surrounding the Maurer, there's a lot of R's, Maurer Animal Company on St. Louis Street. It was widely believed that the owner, Rio Maurer, had lost these cobras from his pet shop, and he was also known to keep venomous reptiles. Not a very common hobby in the 50s, as one can imagine. So, needless to say, the community was not happy at this time. Children were not allowed to play outside unless they were accompanied by an adult with gardening hose and gardening tools and implements of doom for snakes. The 11 cobras were slowly killed by the residents, mostly through the use of those gardening tools that they're using while they're hanging out with their kids. So these 11 cobras were slowly killed by the residents through the use of those very same garden tools used to protect the children. They were not having a good time. But one cobra, the 7th cobra that was found, definitely had a worse time than the other cobras. He was the unluckiest of noodles, let's say. So someone found this snake hiding under their crawl space. So they're like, you know what? We're going to call this self-described snake catcher. That's going to be great. What could possibly go wrong? So this guy, he rolls up with the cops, and the cops are there to document because that's what they do. Not journalist cops, let's say. So he had a noose on a stick to catch a cobra under a house. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a terrible idea. Like, he didn't even have a snake hook, no bag, no nothing. He just had a noose on a stick. Fantastic. So this didn't work, right? It was a 10-foot pole with the noose. Not a good time. Didn't work. So he was like, all right, cops, what do we do? This isn't working. So the cops were like, hey, man, let's throw tear gas under this house because it's a residential area. We can do that. Why not? So they did that, and it worked much better. The snake came out, and as mentioned previously, they did not have the snake catching tools like a hook or a bag, nothing like that. No, they shot it 5 times. They shot the snake 5 times because America, y'all, America. So the rest of the snakes, they did not have nearly as bad a time. Although I don't know what's worse, getting shot 5 times after getting tear gassed or just getting taken out with like a garden hoe or a shovel. I'm not sure which one's worse. They were not having a great time. But needless to say, by the time the colder months were getting in, people were freaked out. By the time the 11th cobra was caught, they're like, how many of these cobras are there? Are we all going to die? What is happening? A local science teacher at this time is the one who identified the species as naja naja, as the Indian cobra, and was like, hey guys, don't worry, we're fine. Because Missouri, in the 50s, before global warming was peak, they would not have been able to survive the Missouri winter because ice is a thing and cobras are snakes and lepidosaurs, and they do not do well in cold. So no more cobras were found. So yeah, it was cold. They weren't going to do well. But the community is still like, bro, how did this happen? What is going on? What? Why were there cobras? Rio, Mr. Maurer, with the R's in the name, what is going on? You're the venomous guy. What's happening? And he would deny any allegations that he was involved, he had anything to do with it until he died in 1970. The city made him keep his animals outside of the city limits because they were like, nah, man, you lost your chance. Not a good time. And he was adamant. He did not do it. This was not his fault for years. 35 years, in fact, was when everyone figured out what had actually happened. Yeah, so in 1986, the mystery would be solved by a guy named Carl, because we love a Carl. We love a Carl. Carl Barnett. He was 14 years old in 1953. And, you know, as all teens are wont to do, he wanted a little cash on the side. So Carl had an agreement with Rio where he, Carl, would go around the area and catch black snakes for the Maurer Pet Company. Because captive breeding wasn't a thing, and black snakes are pretty awesome. I'm a little biased. They're pretty cool. So he would bring in the black snakes that he would catch, and Rio, Maurer, he would give him money for the snakes that he had caught, or he would do a trade. So one day, little Carl comes rolling in with his fresh catch of black snakes, and he gets a fish, a tropical fish. And he was so excited, right? So he brings this tropical fish home to his house. And he's like, I'm going to take care of this tropical fish. And he puts the tropical fish in the tank where the fish promptly dies. Heartwarming tale. So Carl is very unhappy. So next day he goes back to Rio Maurer, back to the Maurer Animal Company to be like, hey man, my fish died. What gives? You gave it to me last night. That's not cool. And Rio Maurer, he says to sweet little Carl, you know what? If you don't know how to take care of a fish, that's not really my problem. I'm not reimbursing you. I'm not giving you a new fish. The deal was done. Sucks to suck. So Carl, being a 14-year-old boy with not a developed frontal lobe because child, decides he's going to go outside. He's storming out. He's upset, sees his box. And he assumes this is a box of the black snakes that he had given last night, the night previously. He's like, you know what? Out of spite, he just knocks the box over and lets all these 11 mysterious snakes escape. I don't know if your math is as good as mine, but those are the snakes. Those are the cobras. He unleashed 11 Indian cobras. So a few weeks later, when people start being like, hey man, what are these mysterious death noodles doing in our community? He realized, oh crap, I messed up. Those were not, oh, that was a good yawn, Daniel. You did so good, isn't he a good boy? Yeah. He realized he done messed up. And years and years later, 35 years later after this incident, he comes forward after he gets assurances that he will not be charged with any sort of crimes or bad doings. And they're like, okay, yeah, whatever story you got to tell, sure, we're not going to charge you of crimes, bro. What's up? So he's like, I'm the one that did it. I'm sorry, what did he say specifically? I'm the one that done did it. Missouri. I'm the one that done did it. And he explains the whole situation. And the mystery was solved because, you know, petty 14-year-olds. Am I right? But, you know, this whole saga is it's a fun little story, a fun little piece of Springfield history. We love it. And now in the 21st century, in the raging 20s, we still pay homage in the area to this event. We have Mother's Brewing, a local brewery, and they have two beers. Hi. They have two beers dedicated to this, Cobra Scare and Wild Cobra. I have not had these delicious brews, but I'm told that they are really good, like sour wheat ales. Very good. Not an IPA. I don't like IPAs. Sour wheat ale. Very good. And then there's also, one of the Cobras is preserved at Drury University. This story has a lot of breweries. Okay, it's Missouri. Maybe it's the meth, maybe it's the lack of teeth, but there's a lot of R's and they're really hard to say. But Drury University has one of these snakes preserved, which is kind of awesome. And we love it. It's a wild story that still gets talked about today. I didn't know about this story until I moved here from the frigid white north. And I was like, no. My coworker Jeff told me, no, there was totally cobras that were just like loose. And I'm like, Jeff, cobras don't live in Missouri. That doesn't happen. And then I looked into it. I was like, well, I'll be danged. Cobras, we're in Missouri. How about that? But basically, if you, hi friend, maybe I'll let you go into the wild. But if you have any sort of animal, any sort of snake, don't release them into the wild. Don't release them into the public, because people will be terrified and they will harm your sweet, sweet noodle. Like Lieutenant Dan here, he's big, scary boy. He's very intimidating. Look at that. He's so intimidating. Yes. But if you find a snake in the wild, leave it alone. Let it go about its day. Snakes are great for the environment. They eat all the rats. And you know what? Rats carry a lot of stuff. Do you want the plague? I don't want the plague. So let the snakes roam around in the wild to eat the rats and stop plague. Because that's what we need in the 2025. More plague. That's what we need. And if you do have a furry friend, a scale friend, a venom boy, again, don't release them into the wild. There are plenty of rescues that will help with any sort of situation you might have. Prime example, Minnesota has snake discovery. They have Adoption Island. They have an adoption program and a surrender program. That's the big one that I know of. Around here, I'm not sure in the Springfield, Missouri area. But there are plenty of resources. It's a Google search away. And that is it. That is the tale of the Great Cobra Scare of 1953. And there we go, snake hat, of 1953. Now, well, Daniel here has me in snake cuffs. If you liked that video, if you liked that story, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe even, and we'll do more of these in the future. Let me know your snake stories below. I'd love to hear about them. That's it, folks. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye!